It is our honor to have Dr. Larry McCleary talk a little bit about this incredible product and at TM3 and why everyone should have it. So, Dr. McCleary, I'd like to turn the stage over to you to talk a little bit
Sure.
about this groundbreaking product that is now offered through TM3 United.
Well, the first question that some people might have is, what's a pediatric neurosurgeon doing in the bone health field? And that might be a question that I'd have to answer. But here's how that kind of unfolded. So, as you've heard before on these calls, I took care of a lot of children who had cancer. And so I knew the pediatric oncology kids at the Children's Hospital, and a number of them had really bad bones. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I talked to them, and as it turned out, a number of them were taking this medication called prednisone. Now, prednisone is something that I used in a child who would have a brain tumor because it decreases the swelling around the brain tumor. But the leukemia kids used it because it killed white blood cells. And a lot of them had cancers involving white blood cells. And so I started thinking, well, why? I mean, what was prednisone doing to these children's bones? And if you stay on prednisone for a long period of time, if you kind of dig into how it works, it turns on processes in bone cells that causes the bone cells to leach out calcium. So it really, you start taking prednisone for a long period of time, and your bone cells lose more and more and more calcium the longer you're on it, and that's why these kids had weak bones. And if you kind of look at prednisone use in older people, if you have MS or if you have a lot of immune diseases such as temporal arteritis, or if you've had an organ transplant and you've been on prednisone, the same type of thing can happen. So if you look at people who had lupus or giant cell arteritis who have been on prednisone, their bones are much weaker than normal. And the common denominator is that this medication in all people, kids and adults, leaches calcium out of bone. And so I thought, well, these kids who had leukemia, for example, were already on 7 or 8 meds. So what could we do nutritionally to turn that around? And as I kind of looked into the problem, I realized that the diet that we eat is an acid generating diet. And why is that bad? It's bad because it leaches calcium out of bone. Acid that your body generates as you go through a daily routine leaches calcium out of bone. And if you look at what our forebears ate years ago, they ate a diet that was neutral. It did not create acid. And so acid is a stressor for the body. And if you look at the bone health of Paleolithic humans, their bones were very strong and robust, whereas ours, in comparison, are pretty thin. And the common denominator with acid and prednisone and also a falling estrogen level is you leach calcium out of bone. So that was kind of a light bulb that went off in my head, and I started looking at bone health in a totally different way. But good bone health is keeping calcium in bone, and bad bone health is having bones that release calcium. So that made it kind of easy. So I thought, well, if I can come up with a nutritional solution that keeps calcium in bone, then bingo, we've got a great solution. And so that really is how I arrived at the formulation for the product BON3-X. And we actually studied it in humans. And this is kind of a funny story. So we wanted to make that clinical trial as hard for BON3-X to be successful as possible. So how did we do that? Well, we studied it in a group of women who were menopausal. And menopausal women, that's especially the first 10 years, say after age 50, that's when calcium loss from bone is the greatest. And the product, BON3-X, has no calcium in it. And we made sure that all the people on the study were not taking calcium supplements. And that really is stacking the deck against BON3-X. And then the fourth thing we did is we said, we want to see results fast because that's what people always want. So we did a study that was 6 weeks long. And bone, I mean, just intuitively, bone doesn't ostensibly change that fast. So we really put BON3-X's feet to the fire. And when we did this study, we had two groups of people, one who were taking BON3-X, one who were taking what we call a placebo, which is an inactive product. And we compared the two at baseline and then after 6 weeks. And what did we measure? We did really 3 tests. We did two blood tests, one that measured a marker of bone formation, one that was a marker of bone breakdown, meaning calcium loss from bone. And then the third test was a 24-hour urine collection where we measured how much calcium these women were losing after, after the 6-week period. And when we compared the two groups, we found amazing results in all 3. We found in the BON3-X group that calcium stayed in bone. That's what the bone formation marker told us. The bone breakdown marker showed a decrease, which meant less calcium was leaving bone. And then to kind of document that even further, we measured the amount of calcium that was leaving bone in the urine, because 99.99% of the calcium in our body's in bone. If you're leaching out a lot of calcium from bone, where does it go? It goes into the urine. So calcium loss was dramatically decreased in the people who were on BON3-X. And we calculated on average how much calcium that was for each individual per day, how much they saved. And if you take that number and calculate how much calcium that would save in an adult female skeleton, say over 20 years. Suppose you start taking BON3-X at age 50 and you take it to age 70, which is when a lot of people start getting diagnosed with these bone problems. It would save about half the calcium in an adult female skeleton, which is just unheard of. And how do we know, since we only did a 6-week clinical study, how do we know this effect would continue for a long period of time? Well, there's a group at the University of California, San Francisco, who did similar studies over a 3-year period, and they showed that this approach was just as effective after 3 years as it was after 3 months. So we know that this benefit continues, meaning the body won't get used to it and stop having the benefit. So this is a great product. And to understand or to communicate how it really works, it basically makes the calcium you're taking tremendously more effective, because a lot of people are taking calcium for bone health, and how many of them have seen an improvement in bone health? Not that many. Why is that? Because the calcium goes into your mouth, into your gut, it's absorbed, goes into bone, and then it's peed out because, for example, our diet causes this acid to form, which causes bones to release calcium. So you can be taking a lot of calcium, but if it's all going out in the urine, it's not helping your bone health. And BON3-X, the name of the product, BON3-X, works by gluing calcium into bone. And it does this 5 different ways. One way is it contains vitamin D, which improves calcium absorption from the intestines. It's got vitamin B5, which is pantothenic acid, which slows down the action of bone cells that release calcium from bone. So that's number 2. Number 3, it contains folic acid, which lowers homocysteine levels, which also causes excretion of acid from bone. And then the 2 really proprietary ways that BON3-X works is it decreases acid. It includes acid buffers, so the bone doesn't have to release calcium in that process. And it also contains 5 herbs, kind of like the song, sage, rosemary and thyme, plus turmeric and basil, which turn off an enzyme that sits on bone cells that causes them to release calcium. So all 5 of those ways is how it creates this really very dramatic and rapid impact on bone health. And, we've been talking about women, but we also did these same tests in men, and they found the same results. And some of the studies we did, the blood tests and so forth, we did after just a couple of weeks. So this works really actually pretty fast. And to put things into perspective, if, most products that we've heard about to improve bone health are pharmaceuticals. And if you start a pharmaceutical and you look at C-telopeptide, for example, which is a marker, the marker of bone breakdown that we use, if the pharmaceuticals show a 25% improvement, they're thrilled. Now, we're not as good as a pharmaceutical, and we're not treating osteoporosis, but we saw about, instead of a 25%, we saw about a 15% improvement, which is really very significant. And the other thing is we saw it after 6 weeks, and the pharmaceutical studies saw that after 3 to 6 months. So that was after people were on those products longer. So this really stacks up well to other approaches to bone health. And from a safety perspective, I mean, if you have a few salts and a few herbs, that's a pretty safe product. So that's why we're really enthusiastic and thrilled that you all are interested in carrying BON3-X, because we believe in it. It's been tested and it works. And it's also been awarded a patent. As I said, it had a clinical trial, and we published that in a medical journal. So it's got really a very good product pedigree. So that's BON3-X in a nutshell. And if people have questions about it, that would be great.
Yeah, Dr. McCleary, I did want to reiterate what you had said, because it's unbelievable. I think this is probably the best bone-related product, in the industry. But BON3-X, patented and clinically tested formula, works in 5 distinct ways to firmly anchor calcium in bone. And you had covered these, but I wanted to reiterate. BON3-X has been clinically shown to 1, increase a marker of bone formation; 2, decrease a marker of bone breakdown. So it's working for the benefit both ways: formation and reducing breakdown. Decreases the loss of calcium from bone and rapidly enhances bone health in as little as 6 weeks. And the questions, you've already answered the one, but I'm going to ask it again.
Can I just say one thing about that? There's kind of a visual analogy that people can use. And it's the bathtub analogy. And a bathtub has a faucet through which water enters the bathtub, and it's got a drain through which water exits the bathtub. And if you consider the depth of the water in the bathtub as the mass or the robustness of your bones, you can open the spigot wide so that more water is flowing in. And that's kind of the analogy, is people taking high amounts of calcium. But if while you're doing that, the drain is wide open, the water is going to go out the spigot, through the tub, and out the drain. So you're not going to build up any depth of water. And the way this product works is essentially by putting a stopper in the drain. So any calcium that goes in essentially stays there and is not just leached out. So even if you don't have the spigot open all the way, if you're patient, you can draw a deep bath. And so that's kind of how to think about how this product works.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Dr. McCleary, the one question that you have answered, but I'm going to ask again. The clinical trials were done on both men and women. That was the question.
The clinical trial was done on the toughest group possible, postmenopausal women who were not taking any calcium, and it was done over 6 weeks. But we've also looked at this in a number of men, and the decreases in C-telopeptide, the marker of bone breakdown, decreased in the same range for men as they did for women.
Okay, awesome. The next question, just says, what if you don't take calcium because of increase in chance of breast cancer? Just curious.
Well, I mean, we all take calcium in our diet. So if you don't take a supplement, if you look at the analogy, that's like closing the spigot a little bit. But if the drain is closed, you are going to be able to build up water in the tub, which means you're going to be able to build up calcium in bone because it basically makes your calcium more useful because it stays in bone.
Okay, perfect. Next question. If you have an 18-year-old athlete that has two injuries leading to surgery, would it be appropriate for them to take, or are they too young at 18?
What kind of injuries?
They don't specify.
Well, let me just address this. So, and this is really an important point. So we should take just a second here. So when you go through adolescence, say in your teen years, and this child I think was 18. During that period of time, your bone is sucking up calcium like a vacuum cleaner, but it's not going to make your bones stronger. It makes your bones longer, hence the term growth spurt. So the thickness of your bones in adolescence, even though your hormones are surging, you're drinking a lot of milk, bones get longer, but they don't get stronger. And people have looked at that, and there's actually a higher incidence of fractures in adolescence. But once you finish, when say you're 18 or 19 and the growth spurt's over, that's when bones don't grow longer, but they grow thicker. So the period from about 20 to 35 or 40 is a critical period for bone strength to increase. And that's a period of time when this product would be fabulous to use because, again, it keeps calcium in bone. So during that period of time, from 20 to 35, your bone mass improves dramatically. And when you hit menopause, for example, you start losing calcium from bone. But if you start with stronger, more massive bones from building bone up from 20 to 35, it's going to take you much longer to develop weak bones that you'll have to be concerned about. So, I mean, I think this product, I can't address it for a 14 or 15-year-old, but someone at the end of adolescence, it would be a good product to use because it would help you build more massive bones so that when you're an adult and you start losing calcium from bone, you're starting from a better point.
That's awesome. Okay, next question that came in. If you have osteoporosis or osteoarthritis, will it help? And then follow up, if damage has been done, will it help some?
Well, this is not a pharmaceutical, so it's not designed to treat a disease. Osteoporosis, for example, is a disease. But if there was someone who was taking a drug for osteoporosis, for example, their doctor would say, well, I think, you're going to have a better result if you take vitamin D and calcium. That makes sense. And so as an adjunct, just to support healthy bones, um, this would make sense.
Okay, next question. Is there magnesium? And if so, what kind?
There's magnesium. This product is not a major source of magnesium. It's got magnesium carbonate, and that is probably, if you want to take a magnesium supplement, you might want to take something like magnesium glycinate, because it's well absorbed, whereas magnesium carbonate's not as well absorbed. But the reason the magnesium's in there with carbonate is a powerful acid buffer. So that's why we use that form.
Awesome. Okay. The next question, they assume it's good for teeth strengthening too?
It's certainly good for the jaw bones, and a lot of people who have periodontal disease lose bone in the jaw, and this would be helpful for that. As far as dental structure, I can't really comment because we haven't really studied dental strength.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Probably not going to hurt though. I'm just going to throw that in there. Um, this question that came in, I might have missed this. Should we be taking calcium in addition to BON-X?
Okay, so BON-X does not contain calcium. But the way it works, an easy way to understand how it works, is it makes the calcium you take in your diet and or in supplements much more effective. So the best way to get calcium is just in your diet. Some people, their doctors actually recommend that they take a calcium supplement or increase calcium intake in some way. So I would depend, your doctor's going to know you better than I know you. So if your doctor says to take calcium for bone health, I would do that. And the RDA for calcium, for adult women is about 1,200 milligrams a day. And in our diets, we usually get, the average American gets about 600 milligrams of calcium. So supplementation could be helpful, but that I would leave to you and your doctor to discuss.
Okay. Next question. What cofactors improve calcium absorption? Is it beneficial to take boron, zinc, collagen, and silica with it?
Um, well, there are different types of calcium. Um, Calcium oxide, for example, is not as well absorbed as some of the amino acid mixtures with calcium. Um, Calcium citrate, for example, is pretty well absorbed. So there are different types of calcium, and some are absorbed about 25 or 28%, of what you eat, you absorb. Some are up around 38 or 40%. So that's one factor. And the other question had to do with other ancillary nutrients and things like boron. Boron's really interesting. 3 milligrams of boron, which you can get in a couple of prunes, for example, is a powerful bone building supplement. Silica, yes. All of those, magnesium, there are a number of minerals that really help build and anchor calcium in bone. And one that wasn't mentioned is vitamin K. Now, this product BON-X does not have vitamin K in it. And the reason being is some people are on blood thinners and then they wouldn't be able to take BON-X because Coumadin type blood thinners, if you take vitamin K, it blocks the action of the blood thinner. So if someone wanted to really do everything they could, they might want to supplement with vitamin K, the MENA-7 version of vitamin K2. But again, I would talk to your doctor because vitamin K can interact with some medications. But the way vitamin K2 works is calcium has two positive charges. Vitamin K has two legs sticking out. Once vitamin K gets in bone, it kind of electrically attracts the calcium and tends to keep it there. So that can be a very helpful nutritional supplement as well.
Yeah, amazing. Dr. McCleary, we're going to cut just for a minute because, it's awesome to talk about products, in theory, and these work in real life. And, Carol Allen, she has a house that she helps older people just with their health. And it's one of her biggest concerns is bone health. And Carol, I know you have joined us tonight. Will you share a little bit about why you think this product is going to be amazing, not just for older people, but for younger people as well?
Yes, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Awesome. Thank you, Darren, for letting me ask a few things. I am elated. The majority of my house, I have a small house. It's not big, but the people I have, we have more that are burdened with osteoporosis and arthritis than we have heart or cancer or anything else. I have 3 of them right now on walkers just because they don't want to fall down, but they are doing their best to stay mobile. I'm an assisted living home and I'm an A, so you have to be mobile. You have to be able to pretty much get around for yourself. But we're there to assist them, but we can't really manhandle them or we need to be as gentle with them as we can. So anyway, needless to say, they all take, vitamin D, calcium. I was looking at the flyer that Darren had sent me. It's 4 a day is what it says. Would you recommend, majority of my house is in their 80s. Would you recommend less than that for my population, when's the best time for them to take it too?
Well, I don't, I'm not the doctor for your clients in your
Right.
house, so it's a little hard to answer that question. We did the study because each capsule contains 99 milligrams of potassium, potassium bound to bicarbonate. Bicarbonate buffers acid. Potassium is also good for bone health, but some people, especially older people, can have kidney disease, for example. I mean, and if you have bad kidney disease and take a lot of potassium at one time, that can cause problems. So that's why we spread it out. Would 3 a day help? It would help, but it wouldn't be as effective in doing what we've talked about for bone as taking 4. But I know some people who take 2 a day. I know some people who take 6 a day. I mean, people are all different, and the approach has to be kind of personalized. So, I mean, that person's doctor would have to kind of weigh in and let you know about
Right.
that.
Right. And we would talk to their families too, just to see if, we're always looking for something natural, and the less medication we can have them on, the better that off they are, because of the side effects of so many of them. But they're all doing really well, and we try to utilize as much natural things as we possibly can, and we're thrilled about it. I mean, I have been gifted arthritis and osteoporosis, and it's just something that we've learned to live with and deal with. But if there's something that can help us like this, I'm real excited about it, and I can't wait to see what it will do for us. So I appreciate you. We love Focus too, and so it's you're really on the right path, and I think Darren and I'm excited about it all. So thank you for your time and for putting your trust in us, and I think we're going to take it and run with it.
That's great. I appreciate that. Just one thing, a healthy lifestyle is good for everything, brain, heart, bone.
Right.
And so just something that people don't always think of, at least from a bone perspective. Everybody says, oh, you should be active for your heart. Same thing's true for your bones. And bones really respond to even light weights. If some of the older people can even take 2, 3, 4, 5 pound weights and lift those, or even just walk around with them, that loads the bones and makes the bones respond and grow stronger. So, you want to do a number of things all at the same time, and that's really the best way to improve your health.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, because I do have a couple of them that just started using, they're 2 pounds, they're lightweights, but they feel like they're helping themselves. So I appreciate
We're excited to hear about the results. So you're going to be sharing those with us. And it's interesting too. Amy has joined us. She's got young daughters, and Dr. McCleary, I know we're going to talk about age earlier, like get started going, because it helps curtail the challenges later. But Amy, will you give your thoughts, just kind of how exciting this product is for you as a mom, and congratulations, as soon to be grandma, but with a bunch of amazing young women?
All right. Well, I'll tell you guys, I am so excited. Dr. McCleary, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your evening. Hearing you speak about this product excites me even more. I was excited when I read about it, and I'm excited to take it myself. And I'm really excited to get my daughter started on it. And just hearing also from Carol, being a certified personal trainer, I studied the skeletal system, the muscular system, and then also being a certified wellness coach. And bone health is so important. And I love that TM3 United and Darren has brought a product here that is going to help support our bone. And I think a lot of times we don't think about it until there's a problem, right? And I'm sitting here, I've got a 14-year-old daughter, I've got a 19-year-old daughter, and I've got a 22-year-old daughter. And I'll tell you, they're all athletes. And guess what? They're always like, I'm cracking, I'm popping, I got all this stuff going on. And even the people that I'm working with, I run an online boot camp, and, there's close to 200 people that I work out every morning. And, and they're in there and they're lifting weights and they're doing all the right things. But, how amazing to have a supplement that is really going to help, support, their bones. It's, structural support and movement. And, bones protect our vital organs. Mineral storage. You guys, it is so important that not only are we preventive, but we really, like Dr. McCleary was saying, our diet, our movement, and here's one way that we can add, something to our regimen that is going to give us, a great skeletal system, because we see it every day, right? People falling, breaking their hips, fractures, things like that. So I'm really excited, Dr. McCleary, about your new product. I'm excited to share it with everybody in our boot camp, my daughters. And I just want to thank you so much for trusting TM3 United. Thank you, Darren, for bringing this product. And it's definitely something I'm going to be talking about as a trainer and a wellness coach. So thank you so much, guys.
Can I just say one thing to Amy? Can you
Yeah,
hear me, Amy?
I can.
Obviously doing what you do, and hats off to you for it. I mean, 200 people every morning, that's you must be. The researchers who studied this same approach at University of California, San Francisco, one of the researchers there also looked at what impact this had on kids who had muscle disease. And she found out that the acid in the diet, if you could neutralize that, it minimized muscle breakdown. And I know we're talking not about young kids or necessarily pediatrics, but frailty is one thing I'm sure you help with and you're concerned about. And anything you can do to prevent, I mean, if you are active and you lift weights, that has a positive effect on muscle. It's anabolic. But if you can decrease acid in the body that your diet generates, that has what's called an anti-catabolic effect on muscle, meaning it decreases muscle breakdown. So if you can work out with Amy, you're going to build up muscle, and if you decrease acid, you're going to slow the breakdown or loss of muscle. So, I mean, this, if it can affect bone and muscle, that would be great.
Oh, you're speaking my language, catabolic, anabolic. I mean, me and you, we just need to go have lunch together. So I'm excited, Dr. McCleary. I really am. And it's going to be it's going to be great for everyone, but especially people working out. And you're right, our diet, and we do have to watch our kids. The diet is so acidic today. And it has an impact even in young kids, and it impacts later on in life. So I'm excited, and I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just excited, and we all echo what Amy said, Dr. McCleary. We're grateful. A couple more questions before we dive into one other thing. If someone has bone density that is above normal and they've had the test done, would they need this product?
Well, if they've got bone density that's above normal, then they're doing fine. So why would you want to take something if you're doing fine already? So in that uncommon instance, you probably wouldn't need it, but the vast majority of people are not in that sweet spot.
Well said. Yeah, great. And another question that came in from Rebecca, can you split it up, taking 2 a.m., 2 p.m.? Does it need to be 4 at once, or can you split it during the day?
Well, in the clinical trial, we gave 4 times a day for the reasons that I mentioned, but I know a number of people who are taking this and they don't want to take 4 a day. So they'll take a couple, with meals in the morning and a couple, say, with a meal at another time during the day. I mean, as long as you get the product in, that's what counts.
Okay. And then there's a question. If someone does want to test their own, bone, what test could be effective? And then how long after can they check results?
Well, the tests that we measured, I mean, probably rather than doing a whole panel of tests, probably the quickest and easiest one would be to measure C-telopeptide. And that's a quick blood test. If you really want to look at it, I mean, you have to draw it, wait a period of time and draw it again, or you could do the 24-hour urine to measure calcium before you take it, and then do another 24-hour urine after you've been taking it. And we did the test after 6 weeks, because that was how the study was designed, and we saw improvements on average over that period of time.
That's amazing. Does it help with joint health?
Joint health, we haven't tested it on, so I don't want to kind of make a prediction about that. But joint health, if you read about joint health, I mean, people say it's a disease of cartilage, the shock absorber in joints. But cartilage is attached to bone. And if you look right beneath where the cartilage is attached, bone degeneration occurs there. And some researchers say that occurs, and then that drives the cartilage to degenerate. So there's an interaction. And so, I mean, if you have healthy bone, you're going to be less likely probably to develop unhealthy cartilage.
I guess we can share this with others, Dr. McCleary. It was this graph right here. Remember the one where you had mentioned that if you start earlier in the 20s and 30s, by the time you get to menopause, it just helps greatly fight off. The sooner you can get started, the better, taking bone.
Well, if you just show that the way you did, just in front of your camera, I can say a few words. So if you look at this graph, across the bottom is age, and the vertical axis is bone mass, how big and strong your bones are. And it starts at about age 20, and the vertical line where the curves start to descend is menopause. And so there are 3 phases from age 20 to 35, 35 to 50, and then 50 and beyond. And the bone mass, you can see, increases from 20 to 35 naturally. But if you have a low bone mass when you're 20, you're going to have less reserve when you start losing bone before you get into trouble. And you can see if you, at the top curve, if you have a good bone mass when you leave adolescence, you're going to be at a much better spot when you start losing bone. It'll take you a lot longer to develop weak bones. And the middle curve shows someone who has said, hey, I have low bone mass at age 20. I want to work as hard as I can to have healthy bones when I'm older. And so that person went from the lower curve almost all the way up to the upper curve. And if you look to my right as I'm looking at it, meaning as you get older, that dotted line, if you follow it down, gets into low bone mass much later than the lowest curve. So if you pay attention early in life, that can be a huge benefit to bone health later in life. And that really is the bottom line of what this graph is depicting.
Yeah, I think to me, that's what continues to speak to me. The sooner you're taking BON3-X, TM3 United products, the better health you're going to have. I mean, as an older gentleman, I can tell you, Dr. McCleary, I feel good that I go out and hang out with my grandkids and do a lot of things. And, and just because that's the quality of life, that really I think people want. It's one thing to live a long time, but if the quality is not very good, honestly, it's not very fun. And so,
well, I think one other thing that, feeds into what you were just discussing. I mean, weak bones, you don't have a symptom usually until you break a bone. And so you want to do everything you can to avoid getting to the point where a bone will break. And, if you look at the medical literature, if you have a hip fracture, that's associated, and that's a common weak bone problem where they have fragility fractures. That comes with a 20% mortality rate. So it's not just an inconvenience, it's something that, is associated with a 20% death rate.
yeah, that's amazing. Everyone, just Dr. McCleary, thank you for taking time. Everyone, he's been very busy this week and he found time because he knows how important it is to, to interact with each one of you and to be able to share products that through TM3 that really can be changing lives. And there can be some other questions that come in, Dr. McCleary. We'll forward those to you that you'll have an opportunity to look at, and then we'll get them back to the individuals. But Dr. McCleary, thank you so much for being on tonight. And as we close out, I do want to just say this again because it's just amazing to me that BON3-X has been clinically shown to increase a marker of bone formation, decrease a marker of bone breakdown, decrease the loss of calcium from bone, and rapidly enhance bone health in as little as 6 weeks. And it was designed to optimize bone formation in your 20s and 30s to help slow bone loss in your 50s and beyond. I don't think there could be anything better asked about a product than what that can do. And if anybody's ever been in a any place and you see someone slunched over and they can't hardly talk, it's their bones have failed them. And we wanted to have a product, as I mentioned early on. Colby and I continue to say we are here for health, and a lot of times it's for women's health. A lot of these products that we bring out, and we couldn't say we're all in if we see a product like this and don't offer it. Right? I mean, that's just a fact. Don't trust us, test us. I mean, we are trying to do whatever we can to prove to each one of you our actions are what fuel TM3 United. When this was explained to us and you go through the documents and you see all of this that Dr. McCleary has poured his life into, shame on us if we didn't take advantage and share it with each one of you. Big thank you again to Dr. McCleary for his trust and really for who he is, y'all. I mean, his whole life has been dedicated really to enabling people to make better decisions. And we are truly blessed to have a man of his caliber here at TM3 United. So thank you, Dr. McCleary. And thanks to each one of you, because that's really what makes TM3 United. Colby and I talk every day. You really are the trademark of TM3, each and every one of you, as you go out to your friends and family. And, we're grateful. We're going to earn your trust. We will. But if you don't trust us, test us right now and prove it to yourself. God bless.